Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I welcome you back to the Champions Chess Tour finale here in Toronto, Canada. That is where I'm currently sitting in my hotel room with my crappy little webcam. In this round, we are covering the last match of the round robin and then the survival stage. There are 8 players. The top 2 will auto-qualify to the semifinal. The bottom 2 will get eliminated, and spots 3, 4, 5, and 6 will compete amongst each other to see who are the last 2 people who make the semis and the last 2 people to exit the tournament. Hikaru Nakamura on the verge of elimination, on the verge of potentially his worst chess tournament of this year, and maybe in a few years beyond that. Magnus Carlsen and Wesley So up top, Fabiano Caruana gunning for that 3rd place spot. This is an epic recap. We just finished about 8 hours of coverage, if not more. It's currently 8 o'clock here. I'm sitting in my hotel room. Shout out to the Oslo team. They've been working super hard. And I also just got a suit shipment, so I'm going to be nice and snazzy for the rest of the event. I'm looking forward to sharing all of my iconic fashion choices with all of you. Shout out to Joe Bananas, amazing Australian fashion house that has hooked it up. So if you're looking for a nice holiday present for your loved one or for yourself, treat yourself, you know. Now's the holidays. You can check them out. I got nothing more to say. Here's the situation. Hikaru Nakamura has to beat Denis Lazovic, and Alireza Firouzja has to lose to Magnus Carlsen. That is the only way that Hikaru will make the survival stage. Hikaru's got his fate in his own hands. For now. Hikaru plays in a Bishop's opening against Denis Lazovic, the young superstar from Belarus. And one more thing, Magnus Carlsen actually has to show up to his game. If Magnus Carlsen oversleeps, and Alireza just gets a walkover, Alireza makes the survival stage, and Hikaru's game doesn't even matter. You literally cannot script it any better. Hikaru plays a Bishop's opening. We have a Vienna. We actually have a course line. This is my E4 course. I'm not trying to plug it, with Hikaru as the guy here, but this is literally a line in the Vienna. D5 takes, and seasoned E4 course owners know that, generally black will take, and then white will play for F4 and stuff like that. And by the way, Hikaru asks Lazovic to take. Lazovic says no, and Hikaru takes and plays F4, which I just mentioned is the idea. And generally, inexperienced players here will take, allow white to get very good development, or white will put the pawn on F5, put the knight on G3, put the queen on G4, put the bishop on H6, right? And it's sort of an avalanche. Now, Lazovic is a very, very good positional player, understanding piece dynamics quite well, and he manages to kind of fend off Hikaru in the early opening, and he gets a really solid position. So Hikaru's going to have to grovel, not shovel, all right? He's going to have to grovel here to try to make something happen. As Lazovic's not a guy that likes to lose a lot. He is really not a guy. He's not a loser, let's put it this way, all right? And look at this. He is baiting Hikaru to take his pawn on the opposite side of the board. And then Lazovic starts attacking Hikaru, and he is better. This is absolutely insane. Lazovic is completely winning. Denis Lazovic has a completely winning position against Hikaru. This is about to be Hikaru's worst chess tournament in a decade. Like, okay, maybe a decade is overstating it, but this is completely nuts. Lazovic has built up this insane attack. He gets rid of his knight. And then Lazovic had to be a little bit patient. He could have brought his queen in, but instead he goes in with his pawns. And Hikaru sacrifices the rook. And you might be surprised why I'm not screaming that move. Like, sacrifice the rook, but it was for defensive measure. It was not really to checkmate anybody. It was to bring the queen back from the opposite side of the board, home for vacation, and now we go to this position. You'll notice that Hikaru's got 47 seconds and Lazovic has 16 seconds. You might have not noticed it because it's a little bit small on this overlay, and I apologize for that, but there's nothing I can do. I'm traveling right now. Laptop setup is not as good as the home setup, so hopefully you forgive me, and hopefully my commentary is still interesting. Lazovic looking for a perpetual check, a potential draw, but look at Hikaru. Hikaru just playing with fire. He knows Lazovic has less than 10 seconds, but he's not really playing for a win, or is he playing for a win, or is he playing for a loss? They start repeating, no repetition from Hikaru. Rook d7, queen h2, no repetition from Hikaru. Poking, prodding, shuffling the queen. Oh my god, has he allowed a draw? No, he hasn't allowed a draw. Oh, a queen Can a knight and those pawns actually get the job done? Maybe. There go the pawns, which apparently a big mistake. A4 apparently a really bad move. Apparently instead of A4, Hikaru should have kept pawn hunting, but it doesn't matter because all of a sudden, facing this very difficult endgame, Denis Lazovic hangs a fork. Just like we do online. Knights are tricky in low time, and Denis Lazovic blunders a fork. He goes on to lose game 2. He's been defeated. Here's the problem. Hikaru got the job done. Hikaru was the favorite in this matchup. He's a very, very good rapid and blitz player. But it's not up to him. It's actually up to Magnus Carlsen. The good news is Magnus Carlsen showed up to play, which means that the match is still official. Pawn to d4, pawn to d5. We have a Slav defense, all right? And then Magnus plays into a Miran. This is a semi-Slav variation. Alireza playing in a very, very sharp line. Magnus plays a crazy aggressive move. Long castles looking to create some attacking possibilities. Blows open the center of the board. And right around here, actually, I was doing commentary with Fabiano, and Fabi said this position benefits Alireza's playing style a little bit more because it's very imbalanced. Opposite side castling, pawn blockade in the center. It's a pass pawn, but it is blocked. Black is going to try to create some stuff over here. And this game becomes complete madness. Alireza opens up Magnus's G-file? Why would he do that? Well, he's doing that because he wants to open up Magnus's king. So both guys got a lot of things they can look forward to. You know, there's an attack over here. There's a target over here. We have G5 and Queen A5. Meanwhile, Magnus has to play... Wait, he's lost the pawn, which is apparently a mistake because of Bishop H7 check, which is apparently not a bad move, which is a bad move. Magnus now has too many problems. He has this. This can't be taken, but the queen is really, really delicate. Black is also threatening Bishop A4 and here and B5 and all sorts of other stuff. The bishop goes to A4, apparently a bad move because the queen can slide out of the way, and suddenly Magnus is winning. Complete pandemonium. Magnus goes for a queen trade and is just better. The king goes to G7, bishop takes, Magnus is +3. And it is a convincing +3. How do you win? Apparently, not by taking this pawn. White should go here and try to cut this diagonal, but also threaten the black king on the H7 square. And the threat of something like bishop to A4 is a bishop to E4 is check here and now. Not necessarily, well, bishop takes F6 actually also works. But you just take on F6. You have back rank, checkmate, ladder checkmate. But instead of that, Magnus goes here. And on the next move, it gets even worse because he has 5 seconds. And he blunders a bishop. He blunders a bishop. The bishop on B2 cannot be protected. And Magnus Carlsen loses. He loses to Alireza Firouzja, who just beat Magnus with black. And there was like jokes in the playing hall, you know, the players were actually joking. I'm not going to tell you who said what, but they were like, oh, you know, Magnus didn't look too upset. He's actually happy to lose because that means that Hikaru's not going to make it. That is nuts. I told the official TV channel in Norway, they interviewed me on TV2, which is a channel in Norway that supports chess, has been supporting Magnus Carlsen and chess in Norway for many years. So big shout out to them. I said the odds that Magnus oversleeps and doesn't show up are actually higher than him coming to the board and losing on purpose, because that would be ridiculous. And so we go to the final rapid game. Magnus has to win this game. He has to win this game to force an Armageddon. He plays a Sicilian, to his credit, trying to play for a win. Imbalance, queen takes d4, bishop takes, right, knight c3. Okay, queen c6. Magnus playing this very provocative approach, multiple queen moves. And Alireza looking to create a little bit of a queenside bind, not letting b5 happen. Knight f6, bishop g5, knight d7, h6, kicking out the bishop. And now Magnus blows the center of the board open. This is typical Magnesian type of stuff. We have a big exchange, very big exchange, and now you can't take with the rook because you would lose your c-pawn. Black has a rook sniping down at our pawn, so we go here. Can Magnus win what is traditionally a perfect advantage for him? Bishop pair, he has 2 clusters of pawns like in Battleship. You have your 2 ship and your 4 ship. Alireza's kind of got a goofy setup. He's got this weird pawn in the center. We can't tell if it's an asset or a liability. We don't really know. Like, what are we doing? We're going to push it? What's going to happen, right? He does. And Magnus takes. He helps Alireza get rid of what is supposed to be a pretty big weakness. Bishop b4, and now Magnus is going to keep turning the screws, right? Look at the time. He's got double Alireza's time. He trades Alireza's bishop. Magnus has a symmetrical pawn structure, but Alireza is overextended, right? So now it's bishop versus knight. We know bishops are better than knights in endgames, but look at this is it in action. The knight can't really do anything by going forward. Now Magnus starts doing what he is encroaching. This is like vintage Magnus Carlsen. Alireza trying to fight back, right? Rook a3. Magnus planting this pawn here because he knows in most endgames that's going to be a major problem. Now he's bringing his king. I mean, apparently it's a mistake, but rook d2. Now Magnus trading the rooks, also a mistake. Really, but Alireza has 50 seconds. Surely he's not going to do anything about that. And then he does. And all of a sudden, if you play rook takes a5, which looks like a free pawn, Alireza is planning on, let's say, taking, and whoops. Or you actually could take and then go get this with the pawn and then go back and play h4. You could actually use your 2-on-1. There's no way Magnus messed this up, though, right? This is all part of the plan. Alireza's got 17 seconds. There's no way. There's no way. Oh, there we go. I told you. Magnus knew what he was doing. Rook 2h1, knight g5. Now he's going to win the pawn. He should have played bishop c6, but okay. Look at Magnus. Okay, there we go. There we go. Magnus is going to win this game and force an Armageddon. He starts pushing his pawns. What? Apparently, rook h5, Magnus should have went backwards to push his a-pawn. But by going forward, he allows white's knight to get in and threaten a fork, and all of a sudden it's just a race. And my friends, do you know what happens with white's pawn? White's pawn goes all the way. He has to lose it, and now we go to this endgame. This is a theoretical draw. If you know the technique to draw this endgame, you will draw it. But not with 10 seconds on the clock. Black wants to push white's king to one of the back ranks, using the king and the bishop and the rook, then threaten different checkmate nets. White needs to give deflecting checks from the end, deflecting checks from the side, and also wait. There's also a type of defense called second rank defense, where you put the rook like this in the front, and sometimes you can sacrifice it, and actually it leads to a stalemate. Well, it's over. Magnus is going to do his best, but Alireza is defending perfectly, despite putting his king on the final rank. King h6, there's no way to checkmate. So Alireza had to keep his rook around. He panicked, he moved his king, and one square makes all the difference. Magnus swarms him, rook a6, the threat is to threaten checkmate, and the white king cannot escape in time. 93 moves. And he beats Alireza Firouzja. But it's not over yet, because we still have to go to an Armageddon. Will Hikaru even make it? It's Magnus with white, Alireza bid. Armageddon, 9 minutes. Magnus in this game plays a chaotic opening. I've never seen the move f3 in my life. Normally you put a pawn there, but Magnus starts firing pawns away. We get a very imbalanced opening. C takes d5, apparently considered a mistake. Magnus launching pawns forward, playing with his king, playing with his pawns. Knight h5, now Magnus busts open the center of the board, and he's even attacking on the queen side. Magnus can't get enough. He's trying to play on every side of the board, but here comes Alireza firing back with f5. Magnus takes the bishop. Queen takes, plants his knight firmly on the c5 square. A couple of moves later, he wins the pawn on b5. Magnus is now a pawn up. But Alireza, just like the last game, fights back from a completely losing position to one of equality. And all of a sudden, Alireza is no longer losing. This is insanity. But there's a major problem. There's no bonus time in Armageddon until move 60, and it is currently move 33. Alireza Firouzja has 80 seconds to make 27 moves. And as you can tell from the next time usage you're going to see, he's not doing a very good job. And Magnus is doing a great job keeping the tension, creating forking opportunities. The rook is defending. Black plays e5, d e5. And now you can't take with the queen and you can't take with the knight, because they're both trying to guard the rook. He plays this, which is the best move, but he has 27 seconds to make 20 moves. It's not physically possible. He starts doing his best. He starts throwing in checks. But Alireza is now officially down to 10 seconds for 14 moves, and Magnus's king marches up the board. And this is it. You are looking at the final moves of the game as Alireza loses on time. Winning this endgame is actually really hilarious, because white has to make a knight and then take the pawn and then promote this one, which is very funny. But it's over. Magnus Carlsen saved Hikaru. Hikaru has made the survival stage. Can you believe it? I keep comparing it to Deathly Hallows. It's Deathly Hallows. Malfoy, Potter, Room of Requirement, 7th book, 7th movie. Just, he couldn't let him fall. He couldn't let him fall. My friends, this is how it works. The 3rd seed and the 4th seed play each other. The winner makes the semifinals. The 5th and the 6th seed play each other. The winner plays the loser of the matchup that I just mentioned. The loser of 5 and 6 goes home. You got two matchups. One guy goes up, one guy goes down. One guy plays that guy, one guy goes home. That's it. Fabiano Caruana is the 3 seed. Nodirbek Abdusattorov is the 4th seed. Here we go. We begin with a Spanish. This is a main line with b5 and d6. This has been played many, many times before. The Breyer variation is chosen by Nodirbek. The idea is to put the bishop here and the knight here. Figure out a little bit later what to do with the c-pawn. We'll see, will he play it like this way, where you put the bishop on g7. It's a big maneuvering opening. There we go. There's the rook going to... do you see that? Do you see this over here? I'm getting some notifications here in my my events. Bishop f8. I mentioned all of this. Nodirbek starts advancing on Fabiano's queen side with his pawns, bringing his queen, poking, prodding. Are they going to repeat moves? No. Rook d1. There we go with c5. Fabi takes and does something like this. He has frozen the position. Fabiano is now basically saying, in all future endgames, you're going to have liabilities. These are not assets. I don't know why you're trying to push them there. Frankly, I don't know why you're trying to checkmate me. Look at all of this stuff coming. There is nothing here. That square, exploitable. Those pawns, exploitable. Fabi just has to stay patient. He just has to wait. Nodirbek can't figure out how to coordinate his army, right? Queen d2. Oh, now the pawns are really frozen. And after a series of maneuvers that lasts basically the whole game, everything that I just said came true. Fabiano obtains a position where he has absolutely no risk on the king side. He has outmaneuvered with expertise Nodirbek Abdusattorov, and he's going to point the bishop and the queen, and it's just a matter of time. And there it is. A massive decision. Now you force all of your targets onto that pawn, and this pawn is going to march through. And Fabiano Caruana, in rapid game number 1 of the survival stage against Nodirbek Abdusattorov, is putting on a positional masterclass. He crashes through by winning the pawn. He plays bishop to c5 to make Nodirbek have to defend the knight. He then is ready for the opening of the position. You just can't defend yourself. Too many things under too many bits of pressure. Nodirbek's position collapses. Bishop takes f5. We are 2 pawns up in an endgame, but it's much worse than that because the queen is stuck to the back rank, protecting the d-pawn. Queen to f6. Queen f2 check is prevented. The promotion is secured. Fabiano Caruana just completely destroyed Nodirbek Abdusattorov. It's over. I will show you the second rapid game just in case. Nodirbek plays d4, c4. We have a Nimso-Indian. There's not a whole lot of interesting stuff nowadays in the Nimso-Indian. They basically just trade all the pieces, isolate a pawn position, bishop c2, queen d3, rook d1, normal stuff. Nodirbek's not ready. Okay, Nodirbek's not ready to go. He's getting aggressive. He's doing what he has to do. He's putting Fabiano a little bit on the back foot, but this is kind of like a... No, I mean, there's nothing happening here. It's just a whole bunch of nothing. Bishop f8. So who cares? Wait a minute. This doesn't look good at all. Wait a minute. He's got the rooks. Now Fabi's pushing pawns in front of his king. What is going on? Bishop f6, rook g3. I mean, it looks like the game's just over. It looks like you're just gonna... It's +5. And he loses a little bit of advantage. But my man Nodirbek puts on an attacking clinic. Fabiano puts on a defensive clinic. There is somehow no way to checkmate him, but he simply cannot defend so many elements of the position. The constant threat of infiltration among the dark squares, and the c-pawn taking oxygen away, and the b-pawn being a spot where you can infiltrate. This one goes down to the wire as Fabiano defended as best as he could. But Nodirbek was patient. He was calculated, and he broke through. He broke through on the dark squares. He's threatening rook h8 and rook h7, but you know what else he's threatening? To execute the black king in front of his troops. Queen f6 is mate. Nodirbek Abdusattorov has struck back. He struck back. He went on a massive attack in a must-win situation, and we go to an Armageddon. And the crazy thing is, Nodirbek wagered 1458. He wanted to play white because he just had success. Fabiano wagered 10 minutes and 14 seconds because he had a feeling Nodirbek was going to want to play with white. Can Nodirbek do it again? Fabiano goes for the same line. Okay, plays b6, slightly different. Okay, now we have a slightly different setup. And he says, no trade of the bishop, because I'm not going to be doing enough damage there. All right, d5. Nodirbek takes space. Fabiano, oh my goodness, Nodirbek's going right back to it. He's going right back to it. He's trying to create an attack here. Now remember, when you're playing with white, it's must win. You can't make a draw, all right? Queen e2, c6, Fabi trying to fight back. Now apparently that was a mistake. Apparently bishop e4 here, engine is giving a huge advantage because I guess white can slow play on the d file. But instead of all of that, the pawns just start taking a massive stronghold. e4 shuts it down with f4, but Nojibek does have a positional advantage. He has a very nice bind. Fabi's going to have to really defend himself. And instead of defending himself, look, Fabi just playing g4. Fabi doesn't have to win the game. He's down 3 minutes. I don't know who the hell he thinks he is. Nojibek playing c5 wants to bust open this position. We're attacking that, we're attacking that, we're attacking that, we're attacking that, we're attacking that. We've got ideas to go there because there's a king on the opposite side. We have hg. We might break out this way. Complete pandemonium. Fabi takes the pawn, which is apparently a big mistake. Apparently a big mistake. Nojibek grabs the knight, rook f6, and plays rook d1, and he's better. He's better, and Fabiano's position is on the absolute verge of collapse. He plays bc. bc. Fabi's pawns are about to fall apart. Rook to c8. Bishop, that's apparently a mistake. Apparently Nojibek should have been patient. You might wonder, what's the idea here? Don't you just lose the pawn? But then bishop b4 ideas. And apparently you've got some very powerful cannons there, but instead of that, cd, de, and Fabiano Caruana, against all odds, is still 3 minutes down, but white is no longer winning. It's very difficult here for Nojibek, who very quickly realizes he might not be playing for a win at all. I got news for you. Not only is Nojibek not really playing for a win anymore, he might be playing not to lose. He might be playing not to get mated. Rook g5, and Fabiano's got everything defended. Queen a7. Queen c1. Queen c4. Oh my god. That's a mate right there. Queen. What's happening? Queen c. He's threatening mate again. And the game is over. The rook is threatened. That's mate if you don't go to f1, and if you do go to f1, then after rook to f1, just play queen d2, and you cannot stop all of this. You can play queen c2, but then I play rook takes, queen takes, and you lose this endgame because you just cannot get off the second rank. And my friends, Fabiano Caruana, king h2, rook h5, is the third seed, and Nojibek has to play the winner of Hikaru versus MVL. Hikaru versus MVL begins. Hikaru's got second lease on life. Like, Magnus just pulled him back up, right? He pulled him back up into the event. Hikaru playing a Sicilian defense full of energy, locks the position, castles the king. It's a very locked game. Both guys not too fond of exchanges. Big maneuvering battle. Nobody wants to trade a piece. b4. We go 18 moves before we trade one pawn. And then Hikaru takes the knight to remove some of the stronghold that white has, on the center. And MVL just won't stop. MVL keeps pounding it, right? Striking back with his own f-pawn is Hikaru. The knight goes to f3. Bishop c6. Okay, Hikaru tried to go for an endgame. Instead of going for the endgame there, MVL takes the pawn on a7. Queen a6. Takes. Hikaru's a pawn down. How's he gonna... Oh, wow. Look at that. Deflecting the queen. And now, seeing that he's going to win a queen of his own, Hikaru sacrifices his queen like a little desperado. Rook e8, rook f8. And he's going to have to guard this endgame. Hikaru is down a pawn. MVL has 3 very, very bad pawns. But can he somehow fight that off? Like, is there a way that he's going to be able to pull through? Now, Hikaru has lost a couple of endgames in this event, particularly in Armageddon's. He has struggled a little bit in clutch time decision-making in these deep endgames because they're hard, okay? They're hard, and he has 30 seconds to do it. He's putting a lot of the pawns over there on light squares to make sure that the bishop can't get to them, but the bishop can get to the queenside pawns. And the way Maxime does this is he plays a5, and he goes for the c-pawn. The computer does not like it. But as a human, stopping promotion and using your 2 pawns together is very, very sound. And Hikaru does what any normal human would do. He starts pushing his a-pawn. Rook a5, take. And apparently, after a2, bishop c3, it is a draw. But you have to do it the right way. Knight a5 is tricky. You can't take it. But now, you have to play knight here. That's where you have to park your knight. Remember, if bishop takes, you queen. But instead of that, Hikaru allows white to get too much activity, and all of a sudden, he loses his pawn. And it's worse than that. He loses all the pawns. And Hikaru goes down. After waging a monster comeback, he loses to MVL. And now, he has to win with white. What better way to win with white than to play e4? And against the Sicilian defense, to play a Smith-Mora gambit. It is a must-win game. Hikaru plays a Smith-Mora gambit. Knight f6, e5, and in this position, not cd, not knight f3, not either of these moves, queen takes d4, which is not a popular move. MVL has to not lose. Queen c7, bishop c4. Moves the knight out of the way so it doesn't get taken. All right? g6. Okay, apparently a bad move. Why is that so bad? Well, Hikaru gets good control of the dark squares, good central bind. Knight bd2. And MVL tries to break out really quickly. He tries to be forceful here. Right? Play bishop b5. Nice move from Hikaru. Positional understanding. Trying to fight for these squares, trying to target the pawns in the center of the board. Knight d8. All right? Move there the computer didn't like so much. I have these animations on. I am sorry about that. It's trying to dominate the pawns. He does dominate the pawns. Look at that. That is really nice. Now he's going to play knight d4. He's going to reposition his bishop. f4, rook e1. Positional masterpiece here. Can Hikaru get it done? b6. Repositioning the bishop, as I said. A massive mistake. Oh my goodness. Knight c5. Rook e5. Rook e5. Rook e5. It's over. Maxime blunders, not bishop g2 to put pressure, but bishop h3 to remove the knight as the center defender. Instead of bishop b7, e4, and the position was in the balance. White was better. White was still playing for potential advantage, but this move ends the game on the spot. And against all odds, Hikaru has made it. He's tied the match 1-1, just like the Nordirbeck match. White won every game. So White is 4-0. Nordirbeck and Fabiano traded blows with White. Nordirbeck led 1-0, and then Fabiano made a comeback. No, the other way around. Fabiano won the first game, then Nordirbeck made a comeback. Insane. Completely insane. Now, it's time for Armageddon. Hikaru outbids Maxime, and he starts with 9 minutes and 48 seconds with black. Now, this was crazy. Think about what just happened. Nordirbeck destroyed Fabiano when he played white, and Fabiano destroyed Nordirbeck when he played white. So you would think that you would want white in that match, which is what Nordirbeck did, and he lost. Hikaru crushed Maxime with white, but he chose black in the Armageddon. I will remind you, Hikaru is 0-4 in Armageddons in this event. 0-4. And he's been black in every Armageddon. That is the literal definition of insanity, doing the exact same thing over and over and expecting a different result. But in Hikaru's case, it's not a matter of insanity. It's a matter of sticking to his principles and purely thinking things haven't gone his way because they're a bit of a coin toss. So can he hold? He plays a Damiano defense again, this completely absurd opening that Maxime played against him before. They play an ultra uber sharp line where white sacrifices the right to castle but tries to hold on to his extra pawn. They play a bunch of cutting edge theory. Maxime wins 2 pawns, which apparently is incorrect because now he has to put his king in the center of the board and Hikaru gets one of the pawns back. This is completely nuts. Playing like this with black, you are threatening mate though, so I do suppose that is a good thing. Rook e1, queen c5. And by the 19th and 20th move of the game, it was Hikaru who had a better position despite being 1 pawn down and playing an Armageddon. So Hikaru plays this absurd mutual symmetrical Petrov defense, and after firing off a bunch of crazy prep that he had, he's not even worse. In fact, he's better, and a couple of moves later, he actually gets a totally winning position with this. Now he's threatening to trap Maxime's queen. The game is over. b3, and now the winning move was bishop b4 check. Hikaru is winning if he just sacrifices the bishop. That's hard to do. It's hard to sacrifice the bishop, and then apparently you can play bishop c8. There's a really, really ridiculous line there. If he doesn't have to find it, no problem. He's still completely winning, but it is a little bit weird. He has to play bishop d4 and maybe try to go here, and then he blunders. And now Maxime is winning. Oh my goodness. Apparently, queen f7 wins for white. Maxime goes here instead. Take, take. And now, queen e5. And in this position, Maxime plays rook a1 first. And then he plays here. Hikaru has checkmate on the board if he sacrifices the rook. Rook takes d3, king takes d3, leads to queen e4 and mate. Rook takes d3, c d3, leads to queen b2 and mate. And the point is that black can take the rook right away, but if you take the rook right away, then queen a7. And there's a devastating attack there after queen a8. But they both miss. Rook d3, Hikaru doesn't fight. Oh my god. Oh my god. f3. They're both attacking each other, but when it's all said and done, Hikaru has a minute and a half to make 20-something moves. But guess what? He succeeds. He plays every move in 2 to 3 seconds. He gets the game to an endgame. And when it was all said and done, he held off Maxime, and with his second lease on life in this event, which Magnus gave him by beating Firouzja, Hikaru beats MVL, and he is now qualified for minimum 5th and 6th place finish, 5th technically, but now he plays Nodjibek. Nodjibek lost to Fabiano. We already know 3 of the semifinalists, Wesley, Magnus, and Fabiano, and now it's Nodjibek or Hikaru. This is absolutely insane. Hikaru and Nodjibek made 2 draws, and they went to an Armageddon. Their 2 draws were relatively uneventful. The first one was a very, very nice defensive hold from Hikaru. And in this game, Nodjibek outbid Hikaru. He went 9 minutes and 35 seconds, taking a 5 minute and 25 second disadvantage. He said, that is how much it's worth to me, because Nodjibek did not have success with white. And in their rapid game earlier in the event, he said he didn't get any advantage from the opening with white. So he said, you know what? Hikaru has to play, and Hikaru has to win. He's going to have to beat me, and I am going to have to not lose. Spanish. Main line, Hikaru plays d3. Bit of a sideline. Not c3 and d4. Nodjibek takes a King's Indian approach, like this. Hikaru playing a bit of a sideline with d3 and c4, controlling the position a little bit. Now, Nodjibek forces the issue. He doesn't have a huge amount of time, so he can't get into a long maneuvering battle. He needs to force the issue a little bit. c6, and we get a position with no horses, just bishops. Hikaru plays b4, taking space on the queen side. Nodjibek fires back. He's not going to get bullied. Bishop b3, bishop e6. We have a trade, and now we have queen h4 firing at multiple of white's pawns from the king side. c5, Hikaru opening the position against Nodjibek's king. Apparently f5 was a big mistake because of c5. Takes, king h8, and now f4, a nice idea. Is this pawn going to be a long-term asset or a liability for black? It's a very good question. fe4, rook e4. This looks really suspicious because the c6... Who's going to guard the pawn? This is a horrible pawn. And if you lose that pawn, this is going to fall apart as well. And now Nodjibek probably plays his most clutch move of his life, let alone in this tournament, of his life. He abandons the pawn. He doesn't play passive defense. If Nodjibek plays passive defense here, Hikaru's going to steamroll him. He's going to play rook f1. He's going to play queen d3, attacking that pawn. Nodjibek can defend himself. So you know what Nodjibek does? He said, to hell with that pawn. g5, opening up the position. Now, if Hikaru takes this pawn, you get queen f2 because suddenly the rook and the queen team up. So that's not possible. The best move after g5 is to be patient. Hikaru moves his rook. He's patient, but he's on the e file. And then he goes here, and that's wrong. Apparently, instead of queen f3, he had to really reconsider where he put his rook, which is just impossible to play. Like, if you just played rook e1, you're not going to play rook f1 as a human. Now Nodjibek guards the 6th rank. Rook e8, but Hikaru's better again. Rook e6, he's repeating. Apparently, after rook e8, rook f8, Hikaru needed to take that rook to send black's rook to the shadows. And after rook e6, it's really hard to protect this. Now you do have to go here, and now white can finally get the pawn back. A little bit of a hiccup, but Hikaru repeats. And now Nodjibek defends himself. He's still worse, but all of a sudden, d3 sneaking the pawn in. And queen g3 sneaking in the queen. And we have to trade rooks. Oh my goodness, Nodjibek is fighting back. We're in an endgame. Pieces are flying off the board. All the pawns are collapsing. Hikaru rushing. But wait a minute. Oh my god, he's going to lose the pawn on c5. And he just doesn't have enough. The pieces are swarming, but it's just not enough. Bishop d4 trades into a rook endgame. And my friends, Hikaru pushes, and he pushes, and he pushes. But the pawns are too strong. Nodjibek's king gets out. And they have to trade their pieces. And on the 63rd move of this game, we were left with kings. Nodjibek Abdusattorov eliminates Hikaru Nakamura. Last man standing to qualify for the semifinals. Hikaru, a heartbreaking conclusion to the event for Hikaru fans, myself included, but nothing to take away from the incredible effort of Nodjibek, who outbid Hikaru, took 9.5 minutes on the clock to play black. It was Hikaru's first Armageddon with white. little bit of psychology there, a little bit of a decision-making from Nojibek. He holds the fort. He is the last semifinalist of the event. Commiserations to Hikaru. Commiserations to Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Alireza Firouzja eliminated before even making it to the survival stage. And Denis Lazovic in that order. But it's Magnus Carlsen. It's Wesley So. It's Fabiano Caruana. It's Nojibek Abdusattorov. And because he was the top seed, the way it works in this event is Wesley gets to choose his opponent. Despite losing, Wesley lost to Fabiano. I didn't show it because it didn't matter. Wesley clinched the top seed and Fabiano clinched the survival stage. So Wesley is the top seed, despite tying with Magnus because he beat him in the head-to-head. Wesley So chose Nojibek Abdusattorov. He chose him because he's a young guy, he's a new guy, and Fabiano has quite a decent score against Wesley, actually, overall. And I think Wesley fancies his chances a little bit more against Nojibek. We now will have 2 days of semifinals, and then we will have 2 days of the final. It is a set on each day, best of 4 rapid, and it's Magnus Carlsen versus Fabiano Caruana, and it's Wesley So versus Nojibek Abdusattorov. Shout out once again. By the way, this thing looks, I'm so excited to go on the broadcast tomorrow. Every day, 12 p.m. Eastern time. If you want to tune in, I will be there over the next 4 days. I'm on the desk. I'm doing interviews. I'm popping into chat now and then. And that's all. Champions Chess Tour Final, semifinal, and final coming right up from here in Toronto. Get out of here.